Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Let me ask you something bold today. What if the real limits in your life are not out there in the world, but in here, between your ears? We live in a world obsessed with hacking productivity, hacking wealth, hacking success. But the real power, it's not in some app or planner. It's in learning to brainwash yourself. Not in the way you think. This isn't about losing control. This is about taking total control of your inner world so you can dominate your outer reality. Let me share with you the top 5 genius hacks to brainwash yourself. Not for delusion, but for extraordinary transformation. You are not the collection of memories that loop endlessly in your mind, like reruns of an old program. You are not the regrets, the trauma, the heartbreaks, the failures, or even the successes you've been taught to cling to for a sense of identity. You are not the opinions others formed about you when they themselves were lost in their own confusion. You are not the echoes of your childhood conditioning, the criticisms you internalized, the judgments you accepted as truth because you were too young to question them. You are not the choices you made when you didn't know better. You are not the reaction you had when you were triggered. You are not the emotion you got stuck in. You are not the version of yourself you had to become just to survive. Your past is not your potential. It's a story, one that your nervous system, your subconscious, and your emotional body may have memorized. But that doesn't make it your destiny. The past can be loud, it can be persuasive, and it can wear 1,000 masks, calling itself logic, calling itself caution, calling itself personality. But it's still the past. And the past only lives on if you rehearse it more than you imagine your future. Your biology reflects your biography only because you've been telling the same story with the same feelings day after day. The neurons that fire together wire together, and your identity has become a habit, a memorized self. But you are not fixed. You are not permanent. You are not limited to the script that life handed you. Neuroplasticity doesn't care about your history. It only responds to repetition, focus, emotion, and belief. You can teach your brain to trust something that hasn't happened yet. You can teach your body to feel a future before it arrives. You can teach your spirit to lead, not follow. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become in spite of it. You are not the pattern that's been playing out. You are the awareness that sees the pattern. You are not the story. You are the author, pen still in hand. You are not your past because your past is over. It lives on only because you rehearse it in your mind, relive it in your habits, and re-embody it in your emotional state. But the moment you stop assigning it meaning, the moment you stop feeding it your attention, it begins to dissolve like fog in the morning sun. And what's left is the raw, infinite possibility of the now, the unknown, the blank slate, the quantum field of potential that doesn't care who you've been. It only responds to who you are willing to become right now. The nervous system doesn't know the difference between the memory of the past and the vision of the future, unless you direct it. Unless you stop allowing your emotional addictions to the past to define what's possible today. Your old identity was formed through repetition. So what happens when you begin repeating something new? You are not your past. You are the presence that can rewrite it. You are the awareness that can witness it without reliving it. You are the creative force that can step out of the loop, out of the program, out of the predictable, and into a version of reality so new, so unfamiliar, that the old you wouldn't even recognize. You are not your past. You're the pattern breaker. You're the anomaly. You're the glitch in the matrix of your own history. You're the reprogrammer of the program. You're the breath between the stories. You're the space between the thoughts. You're the signal interrupting the noise. Want me to keep extending this, or dive into a second idea like E is the unconscious mind? Of course. Here's a deep, expanded, and uninterrupted take on the body is the unconscious mind, written in that immersive, thought-provoking style. It is the vault where the memories you don't even remember live. It is the stage where your habits, your patterns, your triggers perform without needing your permission. The body doesn't need your conscious approval to react. It already knows what to do because you trained it, sometimes through pain, sometimes through repetition, sometimes through pure survival. Every thought you've ever repeated has left a trace. Every emotion you felt for too long has become chemistry. Over time, those chemicals became your personality, your posture, your breath, your tone of voice, your energy when you walk into a room. The body listens to the mind so closely and for so long that eventually it doesn't wait for instructions anymore. it becomes the mind, a subconscious mind, a mind of flesh and blood, a mind that moves before you can think, reacts before you can choose, tightens before you can trust, numbs before you can feel. You say you want change, and your conscious mind might believe it, but your body is still rehearsing the past. You try to visualize success, and your body responds with tension. You imagine love, and your chest closes. You affirm abundance, and your gut twists. Because the body remembers. It remembers who you were when you were abandoned, betrayed, dismissed. It remembers what you felt when you failed, when you were judged, when you lost. And it has memorized those responses down to a cellular level. So now, the question is no longer, what do you think? You sit in meditation and say, I am powerful, but your shoulders slump forward like you're still carrying the weight of shame. You say, I deserve love, but your breath is shallow, your chest armored, your nervous system braced for disappointment. You write down your goals, but your jaw clenches like you're expecting resistance. You think you've changed, but your body is still practicing yesterday. The body is the unconscious mind. It doesn't lie. It doesn't need to. It reveals the truth of what's running the show. Because the body keeps score in posture and in pain, in cravings and in compulsions, in flinches and in fatigue. The body expresses what the conscious mind tries to suppress. It acts out what the ego tries to hide. It is the map of your inner programming painted across muscles, nerves, skin, and breath. And this is why transformation is about thinking harder. It's about teaching the body to feel something new. It's about getting so familiar with joy that your nervous system no longer rejects it. So comfortable with safety that your shoulders know how to relax without waiting for the other shoe to drop. So attuned to your vision that your heart learns how to beat in rhythm with a future you've never seen but already feel. Because if the body has memorized survival, it can memorize peace. If the body has become fluent in lack, it can be retrained in abundance. If it has encoded heartbreak, it can also learn how to embody love, real love that doesn't need to be earned or chased, but it takes consistency, presence, emotion. It takes rehearsing the new reality with the same passion that once went into rehearsing pain. Your way there, you condition your way there. You repeat your way there until the unfamiliar becomes familiar, until the body starts reacting to the future instead of the past, until the subconscious no longer pulls you back to who you were. The body is the unconscious mind. It is not the obstacle. It is the access point. It is not the enemy. It is the portal. When you work with it instead of against it, when you teach it instead of ignore it, when you feel into it instead of flee from it, you begin to unlock change that lasts. Because when the body believes you're already there, you are. Want to keep going with another core idea, like a repetition plus emotion equals rewiring? Here's a long-form, immersive expansion of repetition plus emotion equals rewiring in that elevated, neurologically charged, emotionally rich style. This isn't just a motivational idea. It's biology. It's chemistry. It's neurocircuitry being reshaped by conscious intent. Your brain is not fixed. It is plastic, moldable, responsive. It changes based on where you place your attention, what you repeat, and most importantly, how deeply you feel it. Your thoughts alone begin the process of rewiring, but it's the emotional charge behind them that seals the connection. You can say affirmations 1,000 times, but if there's no feeling, no electricity behind the words, they're just noise. Empty statements bouncing off a nervous system that's been hardwired by fear, scarcity, guilt, or grief. Repetition without emotion is like writing in the sand. The moment a wave of an old emotion comes back, doubt, anger, insecurity, it washes everything away. That's carving new grooves in the brain. That's firing new synapses with the force to override old ones. That's programming the subconscious on purpose. The brain learns through intensity and frequency. Think about trauma. A single emotionally overwhelming event can wire in a belief for life. Because the emotional voltage was high. The chemicals were strong. The signal was loud. Your brain said, this matters. Remember this. So what happens when you reverse engineer that process and begin flooding your system with powerful positive emotions? Gratitude, joy, inspiration, not once, but over and over again. Now the brain says, this matters. Build new connections around this. And over time, those connections begin to override the old default settings. The body stops flinching at peace. The nervous system stops bracing for pain. the subconscious stops expecting the worst because it's no longer being fed the old signals. It's being fed a new emotional frequency, one strong enough to rewrite the code. But it's not just about repeating what you want. It's about embodying what you mean. It's not mechanical. It's visceral. You don't just say, I am enough. You feel what it would be like to live in that truth. You don't just think about abundance. You get into the energy of what it would feel like to be free. You rehearse the emotion, not just the affirmation. You practice the state, not just the sentence. Because the brain is listening to your emotional tone more than your words. Emotion is the glue that makes repetition stick. It's the charge that turns a thought into a belief. And once it becomes a belief, held not just in the conscious mind, but in the body, in the cells, in the tone of your voice and the way you carry yourself. That's when the rewiring is real. That's when you stop trying to change and start being changed. The brain doesn't care if what you repeat is empowering or disempowering. It only cares about how often and how intensely you rehearse it. So if you rehearse fear, it will strengthen fear. If you rehearse shame, it will deepen shame. But if you repeat love, and you mean it, if you repeat courage and you feel it, if you repeat confidence and you inhabit it, then you begin to fire and wire a new version of yourself into existence. The repetition builds the structure. The emotion activates the blueprint. Together they become the architecture of transformation. You go from wishing to knowing, from imagining to memorizing, from desiring to embodying, thought by thought, breath by breath by breath, feeling by feeling. The old neural pathways begin to fade. The old identity loses its grip, and new networks begin to emerge, alive, electric, pulsing with possibility. Want me to expand the next concept like focus creates frequency? Of course. Here's a deep, continuous, and expansive take on focus creates frequency, unfolding in a rich and immersive flow without an ending. Focus creates frequency. Where you place your attention, you place your energy. And where you consistently place your energy, you begin to tune your entire being to a specific frequency. Mentally, emotionally, energetically, biologically. Focus isn't just concentration, it's alignment. It's a tuning fork that calibrates your nervous system to match the reality you're choosing, whether consciously or unconsciously. Your focus is a command to the quantum field. It is a declaration of every time you focus on something, whether it's worry or wealth, pain or possibility, you are signaling to your body, to your brain, to your field. This matters. This is my reality. This is who I am becoming. The brain doesn't filter good from bad. It doesn't argue with you. It simply strengthens the circuits you use most. It takes whatever you focus on, packages it into neural chemistry, and broadcasts that signal throughout your entire body. Focus is frequency because your thoughts generate an electromagnetic signature. Your brain emits electrical patterns. Your heart radiates magnetic fields. When you sustain your focus, when you stay with a vision, a feeling, a desired state, you begin to broadcast a consistent frequency, one that ripples out far beyond the skin. The more coherent your focus, the more coherent your field. And coherence is what organizes chaos into creation. But most people live in mental chaos, split attention, distracted by noise, hijacked by fear. Their focus is scattered, and so is their frequency. One moment they're aligned with faith, the next flooded with doubt. One moment they're visualizing a new life, the next obsessing over an old story. And they wonder why nothing sticks. They wonder why the shift doesn't last. Because the frequency keeps changing. The signal is unstable. Focus is what stabilizes the signal. It is the portal to coherence. When you focus with intensity, with clarity, with emotional weight, you begin to hold that frequency long enough for your biology to match it. The brain starts building new circuits. The body starts generating new chemistry. The nervous system starts expecting new outcomes. And life, which is always listening, starts responding to the steadiness of your vibration. The field responds not to what you want in a fleeting moment, but to what you repeatedly tune into. Your dominant frequency is not based on your desires. It's a network error occurred. Please check your connection and try again. If this issue persists, please contact us through our help center at help@opalbelay.com. Absolutely, here's a long, immersive expansion of change your state. Change your destiny in the same elevated transformational tone. No ending sentence, just flow. Change your state. Change your destiny. Because your state is the access point. It is the ignition switch to your entire reality. Before you take action, before you speak a word, before you even form a thought, you are in a state. A state is more than a mood. It's more than how you feel. It's the total energetic signature of who you are in a given moment. Your breath, your posture, your focus, your chemistry, your heart rhythm, your brain waves. It is the operating system running beneath everything else. And it is determining, moment by moment, what you're capable of perceiving, what you're capable of receiving, and what you're capable of becoming. When you are in a disempowered state, fear, guilt, resentment, stress, you filter reality through a lens of limitation. You see fewer options. You recall different memories. You activate different neural pathways. You attract different people, different outcomes, different situations. Not because the world has changed, but because your state changed, and with it, the frequency of your perception. You can only see what you are the vibration of. You can only experience what your state allows you to hold. And so destiny is not some external event waiting in the future. Destiny is coded into your current state of being. Change the state, and the timeline shifts. Change the state, and the signal you send into the quantum field reorganizes matter around a different version of you. State is the root. Behavior is the branch. Outcome is the fruit. Most people try to change their lives by hacking at the fruit, forcing different actions, setting goals, making plans. But if the root remains the same, the results will eventually snap back to match the original signal, because energy precedes matter. Emotion precedes outcome. State precedes strategy. Your state determines whether you sabotage or succeed, whether you hesitate or act, whether you fall back into old patterns or leap into a new identity. In a low state, a small obstacle becomes overwhelming. In an elevated state, the same obstacle becomes fuel, and the difference has nothing to do with what's happening outside of you. It has everything to do with what you're rehearsing inside of you. Your physiology, your thoughts, your feelings. They're all tools to access a new state. You can breathe your way into it, move your way into it, visualize your way into it, meditate your way into it, speak your way into it, but the key is intention. The key is ownership. The moment you decide that you are not at the mercy of your current emotional programming, that's when you take back the steering wheel of your own timeline. Because every future you can imagine already exists as a potential, but only certain states of consciousness can reach those futures. You can't think your way into a miraculous life while living in the emotional state of survival. You can't embody abundance while carrying the frequency of fear. You can't create new outcomes from the same energy that created the old ones. The nervous system must shift. The pattern must change. And it begins not by fixing the external, but by commanding a new internal state. State is magnetic. It either draws in opportunities or repels them. It either expands your vision or narrows it. It either opens doors that logic could never explain or locks you into cycles you can't seem to escape. Because the universe doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to who you're being. And who you're being is dictated by your state. When you live in elevated states, gratitude, inspiration, love, presence, you start tuning into a different rhythm, a different signal. And your life begins to reflect that signal back to you, not immediately, but inevitably. Because state becomes identity. Identity becomes action. Action becomes trajectory. And trajectory becomes destiny. Change your state, change your destiny. Let me know if you want the next one to roll out. Maybe your personality creates your personal reality. Of course, here's a rich, flowing, deeply expanded version of the quantum response to clarity in that signature elevated, transformational style without an ending sentence. The quantum responds to clarity. Not confusion, not contradiction, not doubt masked as desire. It responds to a coherent signal, a unified intention, a precise frequency of thought, emotion, and energy that all say the same thing. This is who I am. This is where I'm going. This is what I'm becoming. The quantum field, the invisible intelligence orchestrating all things, is not judging your worthiness, your effort, or even your history. Admitting right now. They think one thing, feel another, and do something else entirely. They speak abundance while vibrating scarcity. They visualize love while carrying resentment. They ask for the new while emotionally addicted to the familiar. And so their signal is fragmented, the field responds, but it responds with mixed results. scattered reflections, partial manifestations, because the instruction it received was unclear. The quantum doesn't speak in words. It doesn't respond to effort. It responds to frequency. And frequency is the result of alignment, when your thoughts, emotions, intentions, and actions are all in resonance. That's coherence. That's clarity. That's when the field knows exactly how to rearrange itself around you. Clarity is power. It's not just knowing what you want, it's embodying it with such certainty that the energy of it becomes more real to you than your current circumstances. You're not waiting for proof. You are the proof. You're the proof. You're not negotiating with the past. You're broadcasting the future. The quantum doesn't need time to respond. It only needs a consistent signal. And the clearer the signal, the faster the collapse of possibility into reality. But clarity requires decision. Clarity requires commitment. Most people keep their desires vague, because vagueness feels safer than failure. They speak in generalities. I want to be happy. I want more money. I want to feel better. But these are not instructions. They are fog. The field cannot organize itself around fog. It needs vision. It needs focus. It needs specificity infused with emotional intensity. When you see it, when you feel it, when you know it in your bones, that's when you're no longer reacting to life, you're creating it. And clarity isn't just mental, it's emotional, it's somatic, it's in your breath, it's in your heart, it's in the energy that surrounds you when you walk into a room. It's when your inner environment is no longer echoing old stories, but is fully attuned to the frequency of what's next. That kind of clarity bends reality. It pulls resources, people, synchronicities, and timelines into orbit. Because the field recognizes the signal and organizes around it. The quantum does not respond to wishing. It responds to being. To live in clarity is to collapse the gap between the version of you that wants and the version of you that is. It's to embody the emotion of the end result so completely that the external has no choice but to catch up. Because clarity doesn't just move you, it moves matter, it moves molecules, it reshapes time, it influences biology. It is the energetic blueprint that tells the universe this is real now. But clarity requires letting go of the noise, letting go of the stories that keep you small, the emotions that tether you to the past, the habits that confuse your energy. It requires silence, stillness. It requires listening to your own field long enough to know when you are broadcasting from vision instead of memory, from soul instead of survival. And when you reach that point, when you've tuned your inner world so precisely that it becomes more vivid than anything around you, you are no longer asking if it will happen. You are living as if it already has. Because clarity collapses the quantum potential into form. It calls forward the version of reality that already exists in frequency, waiting for you to become the match. The quantum responds to clarity. Ready for the next one? I can dive into your personality creates your personal reality or anything else you're feeling, absolutely. Here's a deeply immersive and expansive version of act as if it's already done. In the same powerful, emotionally elevated style, no ending, just flowing. Act as if it's already done. Not as a performance, not as a trick, but as a shift, a cellular reorientation, a total recalibration of your thoughts, your energy, your behavior, your emotions, until the version of you that has it becomes more real than the version of you that's waiting for it. Because you're not trying to get something, you're becoming someone. You're not chasing the outcome, you're embodying the state of being where that outcome is inevitable. This is not pretending. This is not lying to yourself. This is tuning your entire nervous system to the frequency of completion. The subconscious doesn't know the difference between imagination and memory. It only knows repetition and emotion. So when you consistently show up as the version of yourself who knows it's already done, who feels the future like it's happening now, who lives in alignment with the outcome, you begin sending out a coherent, undeniable signal that the quantum responds to. They say they want change, but their actions echo the past. They desire a new identity, but they keep rehearsing the emotions of who they were. And they wonder why the shift never locks in. Because the field is always mirroring who you are being, not what you are wishing. It's not responding to what you hope for, it's responding to what you're broadcasting in every moment. Your thoughts, your feelings, your frequency, your state. To act as if it's already done means you stop waiting for permission. You stop negotiating with doubt. You stop reacting to your current environment like it holds the power. You decide that you are the signal, You are the cause. You are the creator. And every thought, every choice, every breath is a vote for the version of you that already lives the life you're calling in. You walk differently. You speak from a deeper knowing. You shift the way you respond to obstacles because the version of you who already has it doesn't shrink from setbacks, they alchemize them. You show up to your day as if life is already conspiring in your favor. Because it is, but only when your signal is steady. Only when your internal compass is pointing toward completion, not longing. The moment you start acting as if it's done, your brain begins to rewire. It stops searching for evidence of lack and starts building evidence of fulfillment. Your body begins to believe the emotion. Your heart rate changes. Your posture changes, your chemistry changes, your timeline changes, and suddenly you're no longer thinking about the future, you're rehearsing it. You're conditioning your body to experience the emotion before the event, and that's the formula that turns the invisible into the inevitable. You don't wait to feel confident. You move like confidence is your default setting. You don't wait to feel abundant. You invest your energy like the universe already has your back. You don't wait to feel love. You radiate it, speak it, become it, until there is no version of you that could possibly live in lack. And when your thoughts, your emotions, and your behavior all agree with your future, that's when reality starts to bend. Because the universe doesn't respond to delay. It doesn't respond to hesitation. It responds to embodiment, to full spectrum alignment. When you act as if it's done, you tell every cell in your body that it's safe to let go of the old story. You retrain your reflexes. You condition your nervous system to hold more joy, more power, more expansion, and you become the match for outcomes that used to feel out of reach. Not because the world changed, but because you did. This is how the shift begins. Not through struggle, but through signal. Not by fighting the old, but by becoming the future so completely that the old version of you no longer fits. You collapse the waiting. You dissolve the separation. You stop hoping for the breakthrough and start moving like the breakthrough has already arrived. Act as if it's already done. Want to go into the next one, or circle back to develop a full speech around these keys? Absolutely. Here's a powerful, elevated conclusion that ties together the entire speech, integrating the key principles in a way that feels resonant, emotional, and transformative, staying true to the style we've used. And so, the path is not outside of you. It never was. It was never in the circumstances, the conditions, the approval, the timing, or the past. The path has always lived within you. Beneath the noise, beneath the patterns, beneath the stories that kept you playing small. The truth is simple, and the truth is this. You are not waiting for a breakthrough. You are the breakthrough. You are not your past. You are not the chemical residue of old emotions, or the recycled narrative of who you've been. The body may remember, the mind may echo, but your power lies in what you choose to broadcast now. Because the body is the unconscious mind. It follows the signal you send. And every time you rewire that signal with repetition and emotion, you begin to recondition your entire being for the future you came here to claim. Focus creates frequency. What you dwell on becomes your dominant vibration. And frequency is what the field listens to. Not words, not effort, but energy. Change your state and you change your access point to reality. Shift into coherence and you open doors that logic cannot explain. Because the quantum responds to clarity. It bends to precision. It organizes around certainty. You're not here to react. You're here to radiate, to become the architect of your identity, to act as if it's already done. Not to fake it, but to faithfully align with the version of you that already lives on the other side of doubt. Because when you consistently embody that version, when your energy, your thoughts, your heart, and your actions move in harmony, you stop hoping and start creating. This is not magic. This is mastery. This is not motivation. This is mechanics. This is you reclaiming the pen and rewriting the script, not by force, but by frequency. Not by pushing harder, but by becoming the signal that calls in everything you've been reaching for. Because in the quantum, it's already done. The question is, are you willing to meet it where it lives? Are you willing to become the version of you who already has it? Because once you do, once you stop living from memory and start living from vision, your personal reality changes. Because your personality has changed. And from that place, results are not chased. They are attracted. Outcomes are not earned. They are aligned. Transformation is not a distant someday. It becomes the only reality your energy will accept. So step in, tune in, lock in. Not someday, not when it's convenient, not when you feel ready. Let me know if you want this formatted as a script, slides, or need visuals or voice tone suggestions for delivery.